Hi, and welcome to Sixcess Stories. We are your hosts, Christina Gent.
And Eric Ozarowski.
And this is where we share real conversations with members from the 6 Degrees community about life, leadership, and the power of meaningful connection. On today's episode, we get to talk to Maria Corbisiero. She is a real estate agent and the leader of the Dream Homes team.
So yeah, in this episode with Maria, we talk about her journey of becoming a real estate agent. Really interesting path to get there. We also talk about her dynamic with her significant other and business partner, which is something that's obviously relevant for the two of us. And we also just get into how she has learned and evolved in the way she hires and trains her team, the things that motivate them, and how she basically shows up as a leader for her team. She's gotten really clear about what she's looking for and some of the systems that she has in place to set them up for success. So there's a lot of just really great learning there.
Yeah, there was certainly a lot that we could relate to, obviously just also being a couple in business. And then we have been going through that process of growing our team. And so some of the things that she shared, I think were really great nuggets for us. And then vice versa, I feel like there were some things that we also shared. So it was a really, really great conversation. So please enjoy Sixcess Stories.
As part of the groups, we tend to do a check-in, and I think just to be present, help us be present for the rest of our time together. As a check-in, what's your stress level on a scale of 1 to 10? I feel like usually when I talk to you, Maria, it's pretty high. So I'm curious, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being high, what's your current stress level related to work and life?
I would say only like maybe a 6 today.
Yeah.
I did cross like some really good milestones for some very complicated, incredibly stressful transactions that were just very layered on top of layers of problems and complexity and unexpected things. So one of those closed Friday, and that one was like, when I tell you, probably the most painful transaction of my life.
Oh my gosh.
Because this was a personal transaction that lasted over 3 years.
Wow.
And I really did think that this house was on an Indian burial ground. I'm not joking, because I'm like, it is actually cursed. And so to see that finally like close and like have that off of my back has been
Giant weight lifted.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I think that's just like, for me, it's now I have some space to work with other clients, move forward, like with the ability to have time and energy and space for them. So that to me is, okay, I'm excited for now. Who's next? What new problems will come my way?
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to a new problem.
Especially for like something you've been working on, you said 3 years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
so
wild.
That's a huge relief.
We could do a whole podcast on just that house.
We could.
We literally probably could.
For real.
Christina, how about you? Stress level?
Right now, in this moment, I am so low on stress. I would say like 3 or 4, because I am just really present in this. And we just had another guest right before you came in, Maria. And so I think that's part of what I've learned already of how much I freaking love that we're doing this, because it is the most present I have been able to feel in a quote unquote working environment. I mean, this is not work to me. And so for me right now, like, I don't even know what's going on outside of this room. And so my stress is almost non-existent.
That's so nice.
Yeah.
Except when I mess with the mic.
Yeah, because now you moved the...
Oh, sorry. I didn't like the cord.
Yours, Eric?
Yeah, mine, I'm probably like a 6, 5 or 6.
Okay.
There was a bunch of stuff that I didn't get to this weekend. And so my inbox is a little chaotic right now. And I'm not necessarily thinking about it, but I know it's there.
Right.
It's kind of one of those things
Yeah.
where it's like, there's some things that need to get done for me to not feel that. Just some organization that needs to happen in responses to certain people. So.
Yeah. So I'd love to just hear, and I know that we've talked about it individually and just over the time that we've known you, but I would love to walk through your experience of becoming, like, getting into real estate, but then also having a team, which I feel like that's just a whole different level of real estate. There's a ton of agents that we know, and they're super successful, and they don't really want to go down that route. So for you, and I know that your husband's part of that story, I would love to dive into that and like the why behind being a leader in the real estate industry, why that's important to you.
Sure. For me, I did 10 years corporate construction. I was head of a purchasing team, and there was a lot of great things that I was able to take away from being in corporate. There's structure, there's processes, there's accountability, there's, a lot of different like moving pieces. And while I was in that role, I had a great salary position, and I always believed in real estate. Long story short, I transacted 3 different properties using agents who I thought were working for the best brokerages, had great experience because they had seniority, looked, like they would be strong to represent me. And through those experiences, they dropped the ball at so many turns. And I was so aware of it because I was curious about it. I had always been interested in real estate, but I was just also taking like a very conservative path in life with a salary position, 401k, all of that.
Yeah.
So the representation I had through my transactions was terrible.
Was it the same for all 3?
No. And they were in different areas too. One was like north of Chicago. One was two were in Palm Springs. And I was so frustrated by the end of the third one that I was like, I'm going to get my real estate license, not because I wanted to become an agent necessarily, but because I just wanted to be able to transact and have myself represent either myself or just at least have more knowledge about the transaction and know where I could intervene.
Sure.
So I went and got licensed, and then I was like, well, obviously the real estate exam is not very hard. You have to do a couple online courses and then take an exam, and it's quite ridiculous essentially like we're dealing with somebody's biggest contract of their life outside of maybe an attorney or something of that nature, but it's a very significant contract that you're dealing with. I had already been a homeowner. I think that's another interesting thing is like if you were to probably take a poll of real estate agents, most of them don't even or have never owned real estate.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is terrifying.
How many of your clients ask you that?
None.
Nobody.
No one I have to tell them.
So interesting.
And I'm like, It's like asking, I don't know, a chef if there's like the food is good.
Well, no,
like,
so but part of if I worked with a coach, if I hired a coach, right? So a life coach or even a therapist, right? To make something a little bit more common, maybe therapist is like, who's your therapist?
Right.
Right. But if you don't believe in the thing enough to have the person to go to talk about the same thing that I'm talking about, why would I hire you? It's like being a sign company and having a really shitty sign out front.
Yeah, literally.
We make signs. It's like, really?
So I'm like, I'm not, trying to, but I was like, for me, it just was one of those things that's important because I need to know that you kind of had a similar experience and you can understand and predict where my pain points are going to be.
Yeah.
And that's what I think I've been able to do really well with my clients is say, like, I know what it's like to write that first check, to write for the down payment. And it's intimidating, it's overwhelming, it's scary, it's uncertain. You're questioning, am I making the right choice? Is this the right property? Am I making, good decisions?
Right.
And I'm like, I know what that feels like. I've wrote that check, and so, like I said, my first year was just a really big learning curve, but I also felt like I can do this and I can do this really well. And I can do this probably, just as good, if not better than all these people who have been doing this for a long time. But I was still very hesitant to really take that, giant leap of faith and bet on yourself. I didn't grow up like that. I grew up in a very small, conservative town of 500 people.
Yeah, Midwest, right?
Yes.
Wisconsin?
Yes, Wisconsin. Yeah. And it was just like I was just taught, like, kind of get a good job, have a 401k, contribute to the 401k, retire,
right,
and live a very conservative life. And for a long time, I tried that.
What did your parents do?
My dad was superintendent of schools.
Okay.
He retired at 55 from just putting money in a 401k.
Yeah.
Sure.
But lives a very, like, modest life, really just stays in a very confined situation. It's a nice life. He enjoys it, but it never really resonated with me.
Sure.
That like that felt, I tried it. Trust me. I'm like, I tried to be in this, like box and follow, because I didn't really have like a female in my life that wasn't married at a young age, didn't have kids at a young age, and had a career. So I was the first one, like taking one step at a time, kind of breaking down some of those generational barriers,
Right.
That I just really didn't know. So it was very uncharted territory for me. And that was scary because I just didn't know, like, is everyone good with this? Am I good with this? I don't know what this looks like. I don't know what it feels like to fully just venture out.
Well, and so you have a really, really, really strong work ethic. And so I'm curious, it sounds like what was mapped out was, it's the go to college, have the kids, do that, right? So where does that work ethic, do you feel like, stem from for you? What did you see or what did you experience that you were like, no, I'm gonna fucking do this, right? Like,
well, I think one thing for me was I was going to just stay in my kind of like comfort zone of, I have the 401k, I have my salary position, I'll do real estate part-time for as long as I can because I get the best of both worlds.
Right.
That gave me the ability to pick and choose who I was working with, which it was a big deal for me because I'm a person that doesn't do anything I don't like someone. Mm-hmm. And if you're like not a great person, or if you're somebody who doesn't feel like a healthy fit for me, I don't want to be in an intimate transaction with you.
Yeah.
So having my little safety net of my job, my salary job, gave me the best of both worlds. And it also gave me the ability to leverage buying some more real estate. During the pandemic, obviously everything like shifted, but I met my husband, Joe, who was in San Diego. I was living in Palm Springs at the time. And what's interesting about him is he's an immigrant. He's from Italy. He came over here at 27 years old. 2008, he got into real estate. Mic drop.
Perfect.
Like, he was like, doesn't hardly speak English, is getting his real estate license in the worst possible time. He's like, I was the only person taking an exam. People were looking at me like, are you sure like you want to do this? And
or the best time.
Well, yeah.
Depends how you look at it.
Probably the worst for somebody who doesn't speak the language. Like, he struggled, you know?
Yeah.
But what was so inspiring when I met him was that, like, he really bet on himself. And he really inspired me to do the same. So he was my biggest, supporter, saying, Maria, if I can do this as somebody who barely spoke the language, came not knowing anything about Southern California, not the market, not the neighborhoods, not the schools, not the styles, and I can create a life, you're halfway, like, have already beat me. Like, you're already light years ahead of where I started. And then obviously men and women are different. I think we are starting to see a little bit more of that nurturing element in the emotional transaction of real estate. He's like, I don't even have that naturally. He's like a business numbers guy. He's like, so you add a whole nother element that I have never been able to really tap into.
Right.
So he's like, why don't you just take this leap of faith? And the universe, God, whatever you want to say, forced me really hard in a way that I wasn't prepared for. And without getting into like the too juicy details of it, unless you want me to.
we're here for it if you want.
Yeah, basically I kind of got pushed into my back against the wall at my job that I was working at in Chicago. And I was so frustrated. It was 4 days before my wedding. And we were in Italy on my way to dinner, and I had cleared my calendar. I was off of work. Nobody should have been bothering me or disrupting me. I took the call anyway because I'm a good employee. And they like had kind of been being like jerks. And I was like, right then and there, I'm like, screw this. I'm done. I was like, consider this my notice. And they're like, whoa, wait. And I'm like, no, this is my notice. And they're like, can we talk about this? And I was like, we'll talk about it when I'm back from like my wedding and everything.
Yeah, from my freaking wedding.
Yeah.
Like, stop talking to me.
So then it was like almost like a 9-month transition where I gave them till, April, but it was 9 months from when they made that first call and I said, I quit.
That was nice of you.
It was very nice of you. It was, all things considering, it was very
generous.
Nice. Yes. But then that's when I just realized in this moment, in this new chapter, like with Joe and everything, and just like finally kind of giving myself the permission to like bet on myself that it was a safe decision, because I was just like anxious about what if this doesn't work out. My first marriage didn't work out. The second one could not work out. Do I really want to, have all of this uncertainty all at once? And I just thought, if I'm going for it, like in changing my life in a lot of different ways, this has to be one of them. And then really coming to San Diego from the desert market, I wanted to establish my own lane. I didn't want to just ride Joe's coattails.
Right.
And I wanted to have separation because we are totally different people. And I wanted to have my own little facet of real estate that was just mine. And not necessarily like just mine in the sense of, I don't want to share or have overlap. I just wanted to create something that like really aligned with fully me if I was going to be at that chapter of life where I was like, I really feel like I'm in control and doing what I want to do.
Yeah. Do you feel like you've created that?
Yes.
How long did it take to figure that? Because that's something that Christina and we still are kind of working through of like, what's your lane? What's my lane? What's the role that you play in this business?
I would say it took like 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah. I mean, I started automatically creating my own partnerships, my own, like, who I wanted to work with for clients, my own partners with the business, like partners and agents who I aligned with and all of that. I just started that like from day one when I came to San Diego. And Joe was frustrated with me. He's like, call my old leads. Like, and I was like, no, I want my own things, and I want my own everything. And in the event that something didn't work out, just realistically, but also we're just different. And I said, I lived, in my opinion, 10 years very out of alignment with what I really felt was good for me. And it was just out of practicality. Everything felt so practical, so just like, okay, this is what you have to do, out of a fear-based mindset. And so I was like, I have to do what's like only feels good to me, because that's how I know it's going to be sustainable.
Sure.
Because the other life had a very, particular lifespan. Like I knew for a long time as those years passed, it just felt more out of alignment. I just knew eventually I was kind of always seeking something else. But this, I'm like, no, I want to work my Saturdays and Sundays. I love it. I live and breathe it. Like I don't want to be necessarily an 80-year-old agent, but I don't really also want to retire.
Yeah, it's like you said, like not riding on someone else's coattails. You wanted to, it sounds like, establish this is my way of managing this career path and being able to still do that together as a team and have my footprint on this part of it too. So
yeah, and there's things that are like obvious that I enjoy that he had never found great pleasure in.
Right.
So it's like the networking things I really enjoy. He never really took that path. So that's where I was like, I want to be free to explore because there's so many ways to get to the same place.
You would, part of it is if you just followed his blueprint, like there's certain things you would miss out on. And maybe you don't actually love what you're doing as much.
Totally.
Right?
And then I would be right back to where I started 10 years ago. I should have just stayed at that original job with the security. Yeah. But then I was like, if I'm going to do this, it does have to be whatever I do with my time and my energy and how I navigate this, it has to feel good.
Yeah. Have you had in the last 5 years since you've been on this path and it's been more of in line, have you had any misaligning feelings similar to before? No. Or
no, not even close.
I asked that more just for me because there's Christina shared like Fridays or Saturdays and Sundays for us to work on weekends. I always get done with it and I feel amazing.
Yeah.
And I avoid it sometimes. Like this last weekend, like I didn't work. And I'm like, what's happening there for me where I know I enjoy it. I know I feel productive. I set myself up really well for the week. Yeah. And the most of yesterday I was reading. I was doing everything but what I knew was, quote unquote, the right thing for me to do when I enjoy it.
Yeah.
Right. Well, so
I feel like there's definitely weekends that, I enjoy the hell out of doing that on the weekends when like I said, when I get to go to Downtown Works and work. And there's some times where my energy isn't there and it's not in a place of creativity and where I feel like I am really productive and successful when we do go and work on the weekends is when my brain is active. And so I can't just force that. I'm just not there. I'm not in the right headspace for it. And so I think that's part of, and I struggle with this too, because there's times where I feel like I need to get some shit done right now. Where I will walk away feeling like, oh, that was awesome, I'm going to actually walk away feeling the opposite.
Yeah.
So I think there's just moments where I can understand that or see that, and I have to follow that intuition. And it's like, and we have some shit we got to get done.
Right. Well, we all have non-traditional 9-to-5 schedules. We're our own business. So I feel like you kind of have to give yourself that grace, like, and just have those nothingness days in the in-between, because we are managing people, time. We're just getting pulled in a lot of different directions. And sometimes it's like, I do need a day.
At what point did you two start growing a team, or did he already have a team when you came?
He had a small team.
Okay.
And then, so that existed. And then we really restructured it.
Okay.
And we did like probably 3 years of like trial and error of a lot of different styles, formats, agents that we hired, training, what we offered. And finally, I feel like we kind of have our little secret blueprint that we're really, again, just feeling works well for us and is a place that's sustainable. It's already hard enough managing yourself, then being in business with a partner, and then you add in all of these other people and personalities, and we just weren't getting on the same wavelength. Not that they weren't good agents or weren't qualified. It just was like, we do a lot of like kind of the blending of two worlds. The spirituality, the energy behind what we're doing, the why, the making sure it's always client first forward, not transactional. And then, of course, the educational elements of a transaction and the processes. And so we were kind of getting sometimes one, sometimes the other, or people not really like seeing the whole picture of what we were trying to create. And finally, I do feel like we're really getting the momentum and attracting the right people. So we have some people who are great and who are willing to, you know, that's the other thing is like, I don't expect everybody to come in just like we get it all, but the willingness has been there.
Yeah. I mean, we're in a similar spot with 6 Degrees, and even some of the shift around getting rid of networking and having it be connections, right? Is just to attract more of the right people.
Right.
Right. And not that we were attracting the wrong people. It's just networking sends a different message.
Sure.
Right. So how do we get clear about the type of people that this is for, right? It's very similar to what you're talking about with your team. So I guess what have you done from a strategic standpoint to attract those people?
I think first and foremost, we've gotten really clear on what type of person. Somebody says create the avatar, which just sounds silly, and it is partially silly, but it's also, we have a reference point to go back to when we kind of lose sight, because we can justify, because there are nice people that have joined the team, but then there have been some issues that kind of pop up, and we've not really known when to cut the cord with them and ignore it or coach through it. And that's been something that we can go back to now and say, okay, when we see this, that's our cue to exit stage left, or actually they need to exit stage left. And just refer them to a different team or a different group, whatever that is. It doesn't have to be super complicated, but we just know, okay, here's who we want, here's our avatar, and then just a person that we kind of go back to and say, you know, are they following kind of those guidelines?
Do you guys use any personality tests or any Myers-Briggs stuff?
Yeah,
like
we do the DISC,
stuff?
all that.
DISC,
and yeah. I don't know how much weight to put into all of it. It's just complicated because I don't know. It's just real estate's one of those really broad. There's an agent for everyone.
Right, well, it sounds like even just you and Joe on that pick a personality test, you two would show up so differently.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, very much. And that's, you know, where it's been hard. It's like, well, there could be a great agent for this type of clientele, but that doesn't mean they're a great agent for our team.
Yeah.
Right. And that's been the hard part. We're like, but do we need someone to like be that person for this group of clientele?
Yeah.
I don't know. We don't really maybe have somebody to service this, you know, crowd.
Yeah, no, that's interesting because usually when I've done DISC or have an experience with something like this, any sort of personality test, it's more about who's the high performer on our team, how do they show up? And that becomes the blueprint of this. Typically in this role, this person is like, if I have a team of 100 people, the disc or whatever, the test will kind of, it'll be really similar for certain people in certain roles.
Yeah.
Smaller team, it's hard to see the macro of that.
It's hard, yeah.
Right. But you're talking about, what I'm hearing is you're actually saying, well, this person can serve this type of client. We don't necessarily have that type of client, which might be an opportunity. Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and all of this is really, so this is 6 Degrees is something that we bought. So with that, it already had existing members. And I think when Eric and I bought it, we were really trying to service everyone who was already here instead of, and it was just a process of figuring out like, what are we actually good at? And really just trying to hold on to everyone, even if it, like, where we were going forward wasn't going to be the right fit. Having to come to that realization that I'm actually holding that person back from further success by trying to keep them so hard in something that I know isn't going to service them at this time. Right.
Exactly. It's been a learning curve, and we're still in that curve. I think we will maybe be forever. But I feel like for Joe and I, now we're able to kind of be in our own space with the hiring, bring different perspectives, just putting his like strengths on the table, my strengths, and how we can develop an agent from like these two different places. It's been good the last 2 years where I feel like have kind of found our rhythm with everything. And we still have our moments where we'll disagree on like a personality. He'll want to bring back somebody, a blast from the past. And I'm like, no, like, I was like, but I think now. And I was like, no. So
don't want to go through that again.
Yeah. We're like, don't get back with your hex type of thing.
Well, I mean, from a hiring standpoint, a maybe is a no. Anytime it's a maybe, it's a no.
Yeah.
Don't need to reopen up that wound.
Right.
How does that go with the two of you when there is a disagreement and there's something that you got to work through? I mean, because there's the personal relationship and the business relationship. So how do you two manage that?
When we disagree?
Yeah.
Oh, God. Well, let's just say he's Italian Taurus male and I'm spicy Serbian Sagittarius. Like, where I just feel like we have very strong personalities.
Yeah.
So we will have that initial boom, and then we'll start to making our own points. And eventually we hear each other and see each other. But I would say like initially we do have strong personalities, and we both have the same like common goal, and we both want the best for our team and our household and our marriage. So the intentions we know are pretty aligned.
Right.
It's just, again, what's the best path to success for all of that to like work out well. And we're just so different, right? Where it's like, his path and my path are usually not the same, but it's a good thing, right? Like we're offering each other so much. Like I said before, I'm like, he inspired me to do something I normally wouldn't have done. And he's really great about taking a chance. And if it doesn't work out, we'll figure it out. Like there's always we'll just get back up and try again for Joe. Yeah. For me, I'm like so much more, I don't know if it's corporate or just my upbringing being so much more conservative. I'm like, let's map out all the options. Let's think about where all the people are going to jump out of the woods. Make sure that there's not any surprises, and we really reduce the amount of strain and stress and frustration on this like little journey getting to our destination. And so I want to like be really processed and methodical to get there. And he's just like, we'll figure it out on the way.
It's so interesting.
Which is good and bad, right? Both of us.
Yeah.
Because I'll dilly-dally. I'll be indecisive.
Yeah, I'm more like you.
Yeah.
I want to, with certain things, it's, and we have that same yin and yang kind of balance on our side, where Christina is very much shoot, ready, aim. And then I'm like a little bit more like, hold on.
Right. Let's think about this. Eric will really think about what do we need? What are all the steps that need to happen? And I have an idea. There's a podcast. Okay, I booked 10 people.
Right.
Better get ready for
it.
Here we are.
Yeah. Here we are.
Halfway through.
Yeah, that's funny.
But it's good. I mean, it's obviously, I feel like it's so important when you're a small business owner to have the one person who's like, let's go. And then the one person who's like, hey, hang on a second.
Yeah, it's a good balance for us. I think it's important that having that dynamic, whether it's through a coach or through someone about like being it's like being an only child. And if you're an only child, like you never got to go, are mom and dad crazy?
Right.
you never got to question it
Totally.
like with anyone else. Like you
Yeah.
just kind of, I just know what I know.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's all I know.
Yeah.
So I think as a small business owner, solopreneur, entrepreneur, it can be, I'm in my bubble. And sometimes that's not always the best thing. Sometimes it can be great and it can be really productive.
Yeah.
So to have someone that's, I think for us and for you, right, the analogy that I've given is we're on a road trip and we're in the same car and we're listening to the same music and we enjoy it and we love the road trip versus being in two different cars,
Totally.
going to the same destination. You like your music, I like my music, and kind of it's two different experiences, but we're going to the same place, right? And I think for us, it's been a really fun ride of there's been so much growth and within our personal side of the relationship because of the business.
Totally.
And I'm sure for you, that's probably really similar.
Yeah. And that's
Right.
why I said, sometimes when we're just like not seeing things clearly, I was like, listen, we want the same thing.
Right.
I'm like, which if you go into business with a friend, right, they're looking out for their best interests, their family naturally. And I expect that, vice versa. But with your partner, it's like, no, you have the same household goal. Everything is under the same roof, which makes it unique. And it makes it really special because you're like, nobody's going to have your back the way I do. And vice versa. Nobody's truly going to have my best interests the way my partner does.
Right.
And there's no ulterior motive. We just are like having a disagreement on what the next best step is.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's like, I know in my heart, ultimately, he doesn't want to fail. He's not trying to rip me off.
Right, it's not
I'm not trying to rip him off.
yeah.
It's like, no, we're under the same roof at this point. So
Yeah, it's like it's us against the conflict,
Right.
instead of looking at the conflict as us in battle against each other.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's like a really good way of saying it.
Yeah, I've heard. I can't take credit for that.
Yeah.
I heard that.
That's good.
I've heard it a few times, and I don't remember where. When couples can come together and realize, no, like the conflict is what you and I are battling against to figure it out. We're not trying to clash against each other, and if we can fight it together, that we're after the same goals
Right.
here. So yeah, I never really thought about like the friend piece and how that friend is going to have themselves and their family in their best interest, and so it just comes from a different place.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, whether we like it or not, we tend to be really selfish when it comes to anything around business, politics, what's best for me and my family, to your point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and it would just be like crazy to think otherwise. I mean, of course you want everybody to do well.
Right.
Of course that. But at the end of the day, you're like, wait, I have to take care of my household.
Right.
It's not malicious. I don't ever view it as like a place unless you're in business with a jerk. But most of my friends, I don't think anyone would maliciously try and be like, oh, I'm going to botch this. No, you have your perspective and you have your own household's best interest.
And I think that part of it's really important to like keep in mind when it's a partner is one thing, we're in the same household and everyone has a version of that. It's like the reason I think this, whatever this is,
Right.
is because it's for my family, for whatever the value set is. Right. And there's a version that that's why I believe what I believe, because it's going to do this for me or help my family or help whoever. But none of it's malicious. None of it's necessarily like it's the whole zero sum game of like,
Yeah.
I have to win for you to lose.
Right.
Right.
Well, even times when something like a hot button topic comes up, even between Eric and I, and each of us have to come into the conversation with the understanding of, oh yeah, your experience of growing up and my experience of growing
Totally.
up are so different. Let me try to not get so defensive and hurt by the perspective or the whatever was said, because it's just coming from a completely different place. Part of the growth that I have seen even in the two of us in our relationship, and the business has certainly escalated that, is being able to come and have discourse in a healthier way and work through some of those conversations and be like, look, like I've experienced these things and that's why I'm heated right now. Right? It's like, oh, okay, yeah, I could see where there's fear here and let's work through it.
Totally. Right. And I think that's what Joe and I have gotten really good at. The first 3 years were hard. I mean, we were new in the relationship. We were new in the business. There was just so many things changing. And then I think in the last 2 years, probably realistically, and especially the last year, was like we've gotten just really good at arguing. We've gotten good at disagreeing. We've gotten really good at having that uncomfortable conversation. It's a shorter time that we're in that place, and better results are coming from it.
Yeah.
So now
That's right.
I like actually, it doesn't bother me, and it never bothered me. I'm not a person that thinks like conflict is bad. In fact, I think that's like where most growth does come from.
For
That's
sure.
like now the wisdom that I have in my older years was that like every time I've been uncomfortable was like the moment that something like ultimately good came out of it. And when I was comfortable was when I was just complacent and unsatisfied. So now I'm like, I welcome an uncomfortable conversation or a different perspective or a disagreement, because I know like, okay, this is where we're just going to break through to the next thing. But one of my favorite authors is Marianne Williamson. And she has like A Course in Miracles, A Return to Love. She has a lot of really good books. And one of the things that she says most often through all of her teachings is the only thing that needs to happen in a situation is a shift in perspective. And the only thing not showing up is your loving perspective. And so I think that is the one big takeaway for all of us is I just need to shift my own perspective. I don't need to convince that person to shift their perspective.
100%.
I need to just shift mine. That's it.
Well, I think what both of you said was just the fact that, yeah, I only know Maria from the last 3 years, right? And it's this small little window into your life that I'm seeing, and I'm making up this story about who you are and what I think, and like I'm doing it at every level with every single person that I meet, and just this conversation is like, yeah, it's the same. The mirror's the other way, it works the other way too, where you only know Eric and Christina as the business couple that is trying to move across the country and do the thing, right? Like that's the story,
Right.
And so it's I think it's an important thing to keep in mind, just meeting new people. And it's just like, yeah, I have no idea like what your life has been like, how hard it is, how easy it was, what you went through. I think it's just a good reminder.
Yeah, we have to be curious.
Yeah.
We have to come to these conversations with a curious mind and a curious heart. Where are they coming from? Who is this person? Why do they believe that? Why is this their perspective? We have to do it with our clients.
Yeah.
You know, that's one of the things. It's like, what made you click on this house on Zillow? What made you want this property? What made you decide that you want to be a homeowner right now? And get curious about them as a potential client. But then we have to do that with our agents, with our community, with our spouses, with our partners. Be equally curious with them on all these like layers of why they're showing up in this conversation or experience or, you know, frustrating moment. Where's the curiosity and where's our perspective shift to be like with them?
I'm thinking about my parents too and my family specifically. It was just, I think when it's an intimate relationship, it's easy to kind of go, oh yeah, we know each other, we speak our language, and I need the outside voice to kind of pop in and be like, and I'm thinking about just my parents of like, yeah, my mom was 20 at one point, and I forget, like it's really easy to overlook some of that,
Of course.
right? And it's I don't know, I'm a little bit introspective right now, just of just thinking about like, yeah, because I feel like I love meeting new people. I'm a pretty good judge of character, and it's just part of it for me is just understanding that like, yeah, I'm jumping to a conclusion. Usually the conclusion is relatively accurate, and I'm still doing it more than I'm realizing, I guess is.
Well, and it's part of why I asked about your background and what did your parents do, right? And just trying to find that like more of the origin story, which I think this is part of the reason why doing this podcast exists, is so that we can tell our stories a little bit more, because I think it's just so important to who we are now. And like Eric mentioned, we only know each other for these past couple of years, so we've only seen such a small percentage of
yeah, and there's a limited time, and you're not like, hey, want to hear about my childhood, and like, you know, like we have 1 hour, you know, and everybody needs a turn to talk. We don't have time to get into this like long history and all these experiences.
Well, I mean, the other part of it is how much does the history matter, right? Or it's the past is the past, and I learned what I learned, and I am where I am, but it's right now, right? We're here right now in this room, so it's double-sided,
exactly,
right? So there's value to it sometimes if I'm talking to someone and they're stuck in the past, and like, oh, okay, might need to dig a little bit more, like what's going on here, why are you still there, right? But I think even for clients, like you were saying, same thing, what's the level of depth how do I get to a certain level of depth with someone in a condensed version of time.
Totally.
And then what's the consistency that shows up? How does the trust build? Right? This is all relationship dynamic stuff. And I think it's a really interesting conversation, because at scale is like, okay, how many new clients are you bringing on? How many does your team? You have your partner, right? Christina and me have each other. We want to grow a team, and we want to grow our members. So how do we continue to keep some sort of pulse and some sort of relationship as we have more people come into our circle, right? It's a conversation that's come up a few times. But I mean, as someone that's been in real estate for 5 years, part of, I would imagine, the cycle of, people aren't buying the people that are current clients, past clients, they're not buying a house every year. So there's a little bit of a probably 7 year on average cycle. How do you keep in touch with the people that you are either previous clients or potential? How do you balance building relationships with past, current, and potential clients? I guess is a clear question.
I think that for me, it just stems back to where I have always been in alignment with the clients that I'm working with. So I don't have to I don't do a good job of maintaining my CRM with setting in calendar dates. Literally, when I think of somebody, I reach out to them, or I do something for them, or I try and figure out a way to connect with them. And it's very surprising. Literally last Tuesday, I just went to a client's birthday in Palm Desert. That's a past client who's I don't even know what her age is, but she's over 60 years old. And we've maintained a friendship for now almost 8 years. And it's just been very organic. So, but it's always been like that for me. So I don't feel like I've ever had to really remember people or do what a lot of agents do is put somebody in a CRM, have an auto send card and on their birthday and this. I'm terrible at that. I wish I could actually be better to set calendar reminders and be better at remembering when they closed on their first house. I don't do a great job with that, but I do feel like my clients really understand that I literally adore them. I'm proud of them. I'm excited for them. I'm available to them. I respond quickly. I reach out often. I think of them when something pops up, and I'll remember literally I had a client, for some reason in the transaction, we had a very random conversation about goats that were going to be living underneath the power line so there would be less fires. And then randomly somebody not too far away from me on my walk got goats, and I took a picture and I sent it to her. It's genuine. It's authentic. I remember the little moments that had nothing to do with the transaction that were fun, because it's always been in alignment for me. I've never been an agent who just needs a transaction to pay my bills. And that's what I feel like just has made such a difference. And it makes it really easy for me to remember all of them.
Yeah. I love that it's just so intuitive for you to just, and at what point do you need the system?
I definitely need the system. We have the system.
That's the balance.
I just don't utilize the functionalities the way I need to.
That's the balance, because I think exactly what you're doing is when I think of someone and I thought of you here, most of us don't react or take action in that moment. Yeah. Right? It's really easy to go, oh yeah, I thought of this person the other day and I didn't do anything.
No, I'm a good person. I will show up late to something because I will have thought of somebody that I need to reach out to.
Sure.
I will prioritize remembering them in that moment. I'm really, really, really good about that because it's important. I love
that so much. I feel like most people don't do that, and I feel like, at least from what I'm sitting with, is I thought of them, I should maybe text them, but I don't want to bother them. It seems like it's putting something on their plate at that point, and it's the complete opposite. Anytime I've had someone text me from out of the blue, I'm just oh my god, that's amazing. It's so great to hear from you.
It always makes my day. I'm thinking of you, or whatever. I don't know. It could be a variety of different things. It's very random, trust me. Yeah. The things that come up.
But it's personal, right? I think that's the biggest thing is you're not trying to gamify it. You're not trying to do it in a way that's manipulating the situation. It's this literally came up, and here's a picture of a goat. Right. This goat reminded me of you, and I thought of you.
This conversation we had, and so I think that's where it's just everything stems from that. It has to be at my core authentic.
Yeah.
I'm just not going to be the person that's going to do something right now, or probably ever in the future, that's not fully authentic to who I am and how I care and how I'm going to show up.
Have there been times where you felt you were going down a path that you thought it was authentic, and then halfway through or a couple steps in, you're like, oh wait, no, this isn't
I would say like my milestone year was 35 years old. Prior to that, probably 2 or 3 years before that, I hit just a really dark rock bottom for myself in a sense of I just hated everything that I didn't like doing. I had a terrible disdain. Everything that I don't like, get away from me. I have an allergy. I've now developed in my years, and I just couldn't be out of alignment anymore because I'd felt so out of alignment probably since, I don't know, I would say like grade school when my family moved to like an area that I just really didn't like. From then on, I was always doing what everybody had wanted me to do, expected me to do, felt like I should do. I hated it. I felt like I was in a straitjacket most of my life. And then when I finally started breaking those little chains off, it was more and more freeing. It's like you can't go back. Like once you've already had a taste of what that true authentic freedom feels like, I can't go back now. I can't do anything. I literally have an allergy to it. And it's great. I don't know. It sounds like crazy, but I just had such a big transformation in those years. Literally had a divorce. I literally just stopped relationships, cold turkey, that people I had been friends with for a lifetime. I just had enough of all of it, and I had to stop.
Was there just one moment that this was the moment?
It was a buildup, I would think. A buildup, and then though, that's when I kind of felt like I went off the deep end a little bit. And then I just had to figure out how to dig myself out. And that was just one step at a time, working with the right therapist and then weaving back in faith and then finding better friends that were more on the path of where I wanted to go versus where I've been. And so it was just chipping away at this. And I was like, I have to make better choices with what I'm going to do with my time and who I'm spending it with and when it feels good and when it doesn't. And I have to listen to that. I have a strong intuition. I just didn't listen to it. I didn't know how to. And so it was just being more comfortable with myself, trusting myself, building. I trusted everyone else around me but myself. Yeah. It's not because I was doing anything wrong. I just wanted to people please.
Yeah.
I just wanted them to be proud, them to be happy, them to be satisfied, their needs before mine. Even though I was like, I don't even like this, whatever that was.
Yeah.
And I was respectful. I had a good life. People on the outside were like, what are you doing? Are you literally going off the charts? And I was like, yes, I am, because I hate all of this. And they're like, but you've not shown any signs of it. That's because I was way too much of a people pleaser. I just wanted everyone else to be happy and I was suffering and nobody could see that. And so I had those resentments too, that nobody saw that I was even suffering.
Right.
Up until I would say 35. And then started working with the right people and getting on the right path. And then it was truly one of those things that was divine. One door opened after another. And I just kept walking through the right doors that were opening. And if there was any resistance, that door is not open. I don't need to try and use my shoulder to break it down.
Sure.
I need to just walk through the doors that open, and that's my path. And that made it really easy for me to navigate.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard to get to that point and just finally trust yourself, trust myself, right? And trust that, no, I do know the things that I want. I just have to believe them and trust me and be firm in that decision going forward and not have the outside world influence that just because it's what the path normal, quote unquote, people would go down.
And I think that's one of the things. Be careful of taking advice from people who aren't living the life that you're trying to pursue. That's hard when it's obviously your parents. And it's they love you unconditionally. Clearly they want the best for you. But I'm like, I don't want your marriage. I don't want your life. I love you, but I know you're coming from a good place, but I'm not trying to do what you've done.
Yeah.
Here's where I would like to land. Therefore, I have to seek wisdom and advice and mentorship and guidance when I need it from the people who are doing what I would like to do on some level.
I think part of that too is, so I talk about this a lot with Christina. I don't know if I've said it on here yet, but just the idea that it's the parent-child relationship is really cyclical, where my mom and dad did X. My mom did this and I loved it, so I'm going to make sure that I do it to you as my child. My mom did this and I hated it, and I'm never going to do that to you, right? So it's just constant giant pendulum swing. And so sometimes it's over love, it's under love, it comes out in different ways. But I think that part of what you're talking about is always just a really interesting dynamic. It's like my mom and dad, they live in Wisconsin. They have a great life. My dad was a superintendent. Nothing wrong with it. And that's not, I don't want anything to do with it.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think to understand that is totally fine. But to have an awareness around it of being okay with it is a different thing. But just, your pendulum swung the other way, partially in response to the way that your parents raised you, for better or worse. And it's not right or wrong.
No, exactly. Obviously, like with business, with your personal decisions, same with being a real estate agent. Obviously, there's a million people to pick from. But it's like, don't take advice from maybe somebody who hasn't bought a house. You know, like, I don't know. It's just like, just kind of like, I feel like, look into that.
One of my favorite sayings is around advice is the best advice is to not ask for advice. Deep down, I know what I'm looking for. Yeah. And there's times where it can add value and a different perspective, a different voice, right? But the best advice is no advice. What do I want? Am I aware of what I want? Is it true? Is it true for me? And it's not, it's actually something that I want. That's the advice.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's funny because I think the what do I want question is so hard for people to answer. So I feel like so many people don't come face to face with what they want because it sometimes can be super uncomfortable.
Well, and we're also very confused. Like with social media now, people don't quiet themselves. A lot of people, when they're like driving, they have the radio on, they're talking on the phone. We're just so busy and we're so polluted. A lot of times we're just not even quieting ourselves down to be able to process and to think and reflect and realign and readjust and have that space to take into consideration these things that we're seeking.
We're all just doing the best we can.
Of course.
With wherever each of us is at, I'm doing the best I can.
Right.
And parents did the best they could with what they had.
Of course.
And it's to have that perspective, and everyone, significant others, business partners, team members, part of running a team, right? And this is a conversation that I've had with people. No one wakes up saying like, I really want to fuck it up today.
No.
Right? Like most of us want to do our best. Right. And there are some people that it's just a job and then there's no passion in the job. And I understand that. Part of it would be finding the people that really are passionate about what they're doing.
Right.
And to your point of not working with it would at the client level, but also the team level. I want to work with people that inspire me, fuel me, energize me, right? All of those things make it easier.
Yeah. And that's, I feel like the kind of the space that we all then get really comfortable with the uncomfortable, because you're just like, well, we have the right people, we have the right intention. So any little bumps along the way just feel different. They don't feel like they're working against me. They feel like they're trying to teach me something and grow me in a different way. And so then having the perspective shift, having the different energy behind it feels different.
I'm curious about, because you mentioned a couple times, why would I hire an agent that hasn't purchased their own home? Is that something that you have as like a requirement when you are bringing someone onto your team?
No, not necessarily. I do think it's important. We do have one agent on the team that has not had their own purchase, but they've been in close proximity to a transaction, like on an intimate level, so they understand it. But I make them go get the pre-approval process started. Okay. I was like, go and start the conversation with a lender so that you know what it's like to dig up the paperwork, to the anxiousness of, do we even qualify and what can I afford? Because I'm like, if you can't connect with them, it's going to be really hard to be relatable. I trust that you can guide them through the contract and you have our support and our backing as like the team and the team leaders. But I really want you to just feel on that personal level, because the real estate transaction, as much of it is a business transaction and a contractual one that's so important and so significant, it's, I don't know, top 2, top 3 most emotional experiences that a human being will have in their lifetime. And so I can coach them on all of the business side of things, but I can't coach the emotional experience that they're going to have. And as I've presented at 6 Degrees was, obviously, most people are having a life experience in conjunction with a transaction. So I call them the Ds, right? The life Ds, where it's death, divorce, diplomas, diapers, diamonds, disability. So something is happening in their personal life to make them want to, or forcing them to have some sort of real estate transaction. They either need to buy or to sell based on something that's happening. So we need to be able to be a sounding board, be professional on the business side, but then be empathetic to that life event and the stress of the whole process, because they're having to do a lot of things all at once that are emotional for the better and for the worse, because they're either really excited, really frustrated, really sad, overwhelmed in all of these other areas.
Yeah, I mean, all of those things, all those D's are very high emotions.
Yeah.
I do. I remember the D's. I remember I saw that. I was like, ooh, I really like that. That's simple.
Yeah, when it just reminds us that we're not transactional. We're having people in a life experience. And it's so important for us to bridge the two things. The business side of things, be really professional, be so well equipped to answer questions, to navigate a contract that's complicated, to protect them as the buyer or the seller, and then also be really relatable and connect with them on the human level.
Is there an opportunity in that transaction piece to shift gears? So part of something I've learned more recently is there's a difference between emotional conversation and a practical conversation, and to have both of them together in something like this, is there an opportunity to separate them, or at what stages is it? I guess, how do you handle that? How do you approach keeping the emotions on the side when we're talking about crossing T's, dotting I's, and the business aspect of it? Or is it this whole thing is emotional? And
just depends on who the clients are. And that's like also where it kicks in. Like, you have to have your own intuition and understanding how to read your audience, because you're most likely, I don't know that the number statistically, but most transactions have more than one person involved.
sure.
And then when you zoom out from the transaction, you're like, well, there's actually a lot of people in the transaction besides your buyer or seller. They're being influenced by a spouse, a significant other, children, parents, whatever it is. And then you have all the other people in the mix of the transaction. So I think it's hard because some people, they have their own disc profile, right? My clients have their own.
Yeah.
I have people who are like, what are the numbers on this? And then I have people who are like, this makes me feel really nice inside. And I can imagine our kids' rehearsal dinner in the backyard. I can't have the same approach. I just have to understand like who they are, what they need. And then when we have to have a business conversation, how I'm going to even translate that information. Do they want the meat and potatoes, or do they want a story and some anecdotes along the way? How do I even translate the business information? Because it's important that they understand it, but in the way that they can understand it.
I learned this recently from, I think it was Rudy, but just instead of asking, for you specifically, what do you think of this house? By framing it with the word think, I'm putting them in an analytical space. Or how do you feel about this house? Now it's emotional, right? And rather than the best way to ask that is, what's your experience of this house? And all of a sudden they're going to tell me, well, I think this, or I feel this. They're going to tell me which one they actually are.
Yeah.
From their language.
Yeah.
Right.
They're pretty obvious cues of who wants what for information and how they want to be approached. And it's right out of the gate.
Yeah.
So I don't feel like it's rocket science. I feel like the agents that don't do well with it are too about themselves versus the client. And that's what we really try and coach is it's the client first. You have to just be your phone down or whatever it is, the distraction, so that you can really see and hear and assess what they need based on body language, the language choices, who's doing a majority of the talking, who's the decision maker, asking the right questions, because a lot of times the first conversations are over the phone. So asking, who else will be purchasing this home with you? Who else is a decision maker?
Questions are so magic.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. And it just
Asking
comes from that curiosity, the place of curiosity.
Yeah.
And I think that just does wonders for everybody in communication. That's why I said at the beginning, I didn't realize this wasn't rocket science, but I was not represented correctly. Nobody ever asked these questions. Right. And nobody ever guided us on these processes the way it worked for me. I just trusted. I was like, okay, do your thing.
To have it be more of it feels casual, it feels organic is really important for the rapport. And how do I train that?
Right. That's where I was also sitting with that too. So it's either hiring the people that also have that kind of intuition that you're talking about that you have, or being able to train that and teach that in others, right? And it's experience for a lot of it. And I mean, you're talking about something that's very internal for you. So it's where do I pull that?
I mean, we do. And we do for our team. We have a lot of training. We have a lot of conversation. And we literally just, it's always back to the basics.
Yeah.
Asking the right questions, being really present, understanding your clients layers deep, not just taking what they say on the first conversation as like end all be all. And so we do, I mean, we have so much training. I would say half of my week is education and training.
Yeah.
And it starts with 8 a.m. role play every single morning with our agents. And it warms up our brain. It gets them out of the me and into the, like, we're already just starting our morning off 8 a.m. asking questions in a role play format. So then when they have the next conversation with an actual live client, they're already in that frame of mind of, I need to be curious. Because I think naturally, again, I don't feel like people are malicious. It's just they would prefer to talk about themselves and provide information that they think is important.
Yeah, it's easy. Yeah, exactly. It's easier.
Yeah, I don't think anybody does. Like, they all want the best. They want to share. We have an agent. I feel like she shares so much like great information, but I was like, it's maybe not what the clients want to hear. Ask them, do you want me to tell you this? Do you want me to share with you market information? Or do you want to just go see this house today?
Right.
Let them tell you what the next step is.
Yeah, have it ready
and
to
it's
go.
like the intentions are they're excited to share something, but that's only because you're excited about that information. And it's good, it's valuable, but maybe not for this particular client on this particular like conversation.
Well, it's how most early salespeople sell anything.
Of course.
Sell.
Yeah.
And sometimes excitement gets me. Right? If you're super excited about this house.
No, I think that's like the fun part is, and the agents work really hard at educating themselves. So they want to share it, right?
Yeah.
It's like they've worked really hard.
They've
They've dissected a lot of information. We've pulled out, we've done the research, we've done all the hard work, and now they want to showcase it.
Right.
I know it sounds like we're holding you back from that, but it'll have its place.
Well, I think I heard you say this a couple times with being present with your client, having that be a point of emphasis and how important that is. I don't know that I've heard that from a training standpoint. So I guess, what does that look like? How do you train that? How do you coach that for your team other than doing role play? And that might be
for
part
being
of it.
present, it is just obviously having time management for what you can handle for workload. When you're on a call with a client, obviously less distraction. How are you going to show up for them? Be organized, be prepared, be to the property early if it's this. So it's just like getting really good at the little details that allow them to be fully present. Because most of the time, it's if we are just 5 minutes late and they're waiting for us, obviously that's a distraction. Obviously that doesn't put us in the most present place. So I think there's just a lot of fine tuning what they already do well, and then just showing them like where we can kind of make a modification, because if you can just tweak it slightly, you're going to have a higher success rate. For example, when I'm coaching an agent that is going to host an open house and they're feeling frustrated that they're not getting, because it's like the whole idea of going to host an open house is to be able to secure a client to potentially work with and transact with. Otherwise, I say, if you're going to do an activity and nothing is going to come from it, don't do the activity. Like figure out, go in premeditated. What is your goal? If you're going to this event, like what is your objective? What are you going to do with the information? Have a consciousness. Don't just do things because that's what you see every other agent doing.
Right.
They're going to this event, they're going to that, but then nothing is coming from it. It's just endless waste of time. If you're going to the open house, if I'm going to have you sit there for 3 hours, what is your goal? And when 5 people come in the door, how are you going to be present with just one of them? And so we'll go through those scenarios, we'll role play it, because they'll kind of want to move and talk to everybody. And it's like, no, find one person that's engaging and then have that proper interaction and have that connection and be present. You don't have to talk to everyone because most of the people aren't there. They're just going to be looking for it. So I don't know if that answers your question fully, but trying to find like a kind of a light example of
Well, and that translates so well to networking, right? Like what you just said, I feel like so many people approach events, one, filling their plate with as many events as humanly possible.
Gosh, totally.
And then 2, going into every single one without set goals. And so then leaves them with, well, I got to talk to as many people as I possibly can. Having 1 to 2 really great conversations, in my opinion, is a much better use of my time going into an event. And so there's just a lot of different ways to go into a room knowing this is what I'm going to try and get out of it. And this is how I'm going to do that. And once I've accomplished that goal, I can either stay and see what else is out there, or I can be like, cool, I got my time's worth and everything. And I can walk away from that and check.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
I think it's so important to have some clarity around what you're doing, why, and just making sure that you execute it.
Yeah, I think it's easy to get hung up on, well, I'm doing the activity, right? And I'm doing the task, I'm following the checklist, I'm doing the thing, and I'm not getting results. And it's like, okay, well, why are you doing the thing?
Totally. And that's where people get so drained, so depleted. They get frustrated with lack of results. Then they have to make a move to find greener grass. It still follows you because you're still just like chasing things versus having a really set goal, because we all get overwhelmed by the endless possibilities. But if you can clearly define, networking is such a perfect example. I feel that so much. I don't like to just go into like broad things, not knowing what I'm looking for. Sometimes I do, just to be social and kind of see how things may like play out. But otherwise, I do feel like I should be doing other things with my time if I'm not going in with a specific intention, because I know I need to rest. I know I need to have downtime. I need to have quiet time versus just going through the motions and just truly treading water.
Right.
Where I'm like, okay, nothing is really happening.
Well, it's hard for things to happen. It's hard for the doors. So to use your doors analogy, it's hard for the doors to show up that I can walk through if I'm not 100%. If I don't have the energy, or I'm depleted, or I'm not showing up as my best, those doors tend to kind of hide. They kind of go to other places. But if I'm at an event and I have an intention, it's like, oh, the doors tend to pop up a little bit more.
Right. And I think there's like interesting psychology of it too. Is if you don't have a goal, you're not really achieving. Therefore, you don't feel that you're getting that frustration. But if you go in with a goal, you feel like I've achieved something, and that feels good. And then your momentum, your energy, your everything just starts to shift in that direction.
Yeah.
I'm always in search of something versus having that milestone.
Do you and Joe have goals, specific goals for the business with where you're at for the business, or is it more working with your team right now? And
yeah, we have goals. Our milestone numbers that we want to hit. We have a lot of systems in place. He's the numbers guy, so we have a lot of tracking systems. How many contacts, how many appointments, how does that equate to a transaction, and so on and so forth for each week, each month, each quarter, and then for the year. So we're really big on tracking. It's very much a science in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's important to like.
How do you celebrate the goals when you hit them? What's your favorite way that you've celebrated a goal?
That's a good question. I don't know. I feel like, again, kind of whatever the moment is. So
spontaneous. It's like we hit the goal. Let's go do something.
Yeah, and we reward the micro goals too. One thing that's like unique about the team is that because we have this other side of the business, when they do things really well, we reward them with a co-listing for one of our properties that we're renovating. So then they get more experience, like whatever it is. But we have all these other little built-in things to the team that are incentivizing, motivating, and obviously they benefit financially.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And then we'll go out to dinner for a birthday or do something fun like that, or have team meetings or team events.
Because I think that's something that Christina and I have talked about more recently around, so to your point around just chasing the next thing, right? It's really easy to go, I'm a millionaire and I got to get to become a 10 millionaire, 100 million, and then there's a billion, right? Which is just an absurd amount of money. And how do we celebrate success along the way? So what's the goal? And then when we hit the goal, cool, what does the goal mean? How are we actually enjoying being here and trying to enjoy the journey rather than just going, okay, move the goalpost to the next thing, and we're on to the next one. That's something that we did last year, and I don't know that we actually hit any of the goals yet, but we wrote down, okay, when we get to 100 members, it equals a night out at our favorite restaurant kind of thing. So just curious if you guys had that, but it sounds like you have the goals and it's more of, we did the thing, let's go, let's make sure we take time and honor it, celebrate it.
I don't know. I feel like we're kind of I'm just not a person that has like too much scheduled.
Yeah.
I'm like
which I appreciate.
A little bit like of a free spirit. I genuinely enjoy like pretty much every day. I don't really have any bad days. I don't. And so I just feel like truly my contrast of the previous life, not to keep going back to it, but it's such a contrast for me that I'm like, I just realize how easily it could be something so different that every day I'm just like, I really do wake up super grateful.
Yeah.
And like, it is one of the first things I do in the morning after I have a cup of coffee with my dogs and read for 10 minutes. I immediately like journal. I literally pretty much say the same thing unintentionally every day. I'm so grateful because I just realize how it could have just been a very different path that I could have been on. And so I feel like I celebrate in a lot of ways. I'm not afraid to treat myself or to splurge on something and to take the time off or to take the vacation or to just like live life every single day. I'm not really waiting for a milestone.
Right.
And I don't know if that's good or bad, but I'm just like, I'm not waiting. I waited my whole life to even feel this good.
Yeah.
And I just want to celebrate it, not recklessly, of course, but in the fun ways that like
I love it. I think it's I'm doing it on a daily basis is what I'm hearing. And I'm not waiting for the thing that I need to hit to do it.
Did you ever watch Parks and Rec?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then when they're like, it's treat yourself day.
Treat yourself.
every day.
And I like literally say that to Joe probably like every single day because I had to show him what the clip was because he like one day like last year took himself out to sushi by himself and I was like, oh, are you having a treat yourself day? And he's like, what is treat yourself day? And I had to show him like the clip and they're like, fine designer goods, treat yourself, like
Treat
mimosas.
yourself 2007. Yeah, it's so good.
And I say that a lot. There's more treat yourself days than not.
I love it. No,
but
that's
in
great.
little ways, you know.
Yeah. Well, I think part of it is little wins along the way, and being able to however it shows up. Right. That's the important part. Is to me, it's the ride, and how do I celebrate the ride, the journey, and sometimes it's milestones, and sometimes it's I'm at a place where I can enjoy life and feel good about it, and
a lot of it's very simple, you know, like I would say majority, and that's what does bring me the most happiness. But it's like at the market, I'm like, I'm going to buy myself every single time I go grocery shopping $5 flowers from Trader Joe's.
Yeah.
I literally always have fresh flowers in my house. There's not a week that you will show up at my house and I don't have fresh flowers. And it's $5. It makes me so happy and I love it. And I feel like I just enjoy it. So why not? It's $5. I'll refrain from a crappy cup of Starbucks and enjoy this. Or sometimes I will have a coffee that I normally wouldn't stop for, whatever it is. But I'm like, generally speaking, it's inexpensive, but they're little reminders that we can have those little micro celebrations.
Well, I think that's the other way to think about it too, is I'm treating myself in this way, right? It's not like I need the coffee. It's a treat, and I'm actually doing it in a way where it's intentionally I'm celebrating the day or the win or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm doing the same habit, the same behavior showing up, but it's the small shift in perspective, right? Which is the same thing.
I mean, even with like a cup of coffee, am I looking at this as a little treat that's going to make my day and it's like really fun? Or am I coming at it like, oh my God, I need a cup of coffee or else I can't get through the day because I'm so tired, right? It's like the same exact thing that I'm consuming and I can come at it from two different ways.
Oh, that's our shift in perspective. To bring it all full circle.
To bring it all back. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, to actually put a nice little button on it, do you want to go back to stress for the reinforcement or do you want to shift and
I would go back to stress, but maybe we shouldn't.
Maybe what's the perspective shift?
Yeah, I think maybe we started with stress, but maybe what's one word you'd use to describe your mood at this point in the conversation?
One word. Just present.
Present?
Yeah.
I'd say fulfillment.
Yeah. I think perspective, which has come up on a different episode, but perspective, I think.
Yeah, it was good. I like this. Thank you for taking the time to do this. It was fun. For us, every one of these conversations, I've just gotten to know different parts of the people who are part of this community, and it's really cool.
Yeah, I'm excited to listen to everyone else who's started this journey with you guys.
Yeah. The goal is to get to everyone, so eventually we'll have all the members on here, but needed to start with a couple first.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah. So thanks for being one of the first. Woo! One of the early yeses. So let's dive in deep to the deep end. so corny.
Into the abyss.
Into the abyss. One of the topics that comes up in this conversation with Maria is my truth, my experience. And I specifically start talking about how for the longest time in our relationship, honestly, I guess I just didn't have the tools to understand my truth, my experience. And that you and I, we come from a very different life experience. Mm-hmm. Even just the fact that you are a tall white male and I am
How dare you?
And I am a Hispanic, Latina, spicy female. I know I gave you such a vanilla. I just said it and then I gave myself a little kick on that.
So spicy.
Anyway, so on the episode we talk about that a little bit and how that's been something, there's been a lot of learning, I think, on both of our parts. I mean, I don't want to speak for you. I know for me, it's been the learning of sometimes when I am triggered, when I get heated about whatever the thing is that you and I are talking about and we might start debating about, and having to take that moment to realize, okay, Eric's experience is different. How can I then, I know we've brought up curiosity a lot and I think it's important. How can I shift my perspective? How can I come from asking more questions, or even just maybe to the best of my ability, even put myself in your shoes as far as like, oh, okay, maybe this was just a completely different way that you experienced X. And so part of what I wanted to talk through, because it was so recent, as much as I have been trying to use those tools, it was very difficult, and I knew it was happening, to bring those tools into my conversation with my dad over this past weekend, right? He brought up politics multiple times and different issues, and I mean, not that I feel bad, but I am also now in this moment realizing that because my brother and I were really on the same side of things, there was even some, I wouldn't say bullying, but we were definitely 2 against 1 in that situation. You always, in those conversations, will just sit there and not say anything and not get involved.
Part of it is I just watch. I like to observe it, the dynamic that's happening.
It was really hard for me to stop coming from a place of defensiveness and try to ask more questions, which is what we preach. I think part of it, I mean, you've talked about your dynamic even with your family. And so I think it's really hard when we get to those relationships where we're really, really close to that person and we love them so much. And it's almost like it hurts more, or it makes me even more fearful because I am so close to this human.
I think I want to back up a little bit. So you've alluded to, I have tools, and said the words, my truth, my experience. And I think to have this conversation would be helpful to frame that a little bit more of, so these tools are conscious communication. Part of conscious communication is creating safe space. And part of creating safe space is being able to understand and share and name that one of the bullets, one of the guideposts is my truth, my experience versus your truth, your experience, versus each of our truths and each of our experiences. That all exists, and it's just being aware of that and as a place to start, right? And I think just to kind of, again, create some context to go back to what happened with specifically the conversation with your dad. So knowing that my truth, my experience is an important piece to have this conversation. How did that show up for you? How did it work? How didn't it work, I guess, is maybe a better question.
In the conversation with my dad?
So yeah, right. I like, part of me wants to peel back the layer of the onions of like, I have this tool set, I have a hammer, and I tried to use the hammer.
Yeah.
And it didn't work.
Yeah.
As effectively as like, maybe I was hitting the hammer backwards.
just
to kind of give an analogy. So I have a tool.
Yeah.
I can hold the tool. I'm aware of the tool, and I'm trying to learn how to use the tool effectively still.
Yeah.
Right. And I guess, again, this is more just me being interested and being curious around, or help me understand like what was happening for you from your perspective and your experience?
Yeah, I think it's so much easier to, because there's so much love in a relationship like that with family or friends or significant others, the closer I am to somebody, I think the more fearful I become when that person might say something that is scary to me, is harmful to me, is triggering me, is whatever the emotion is that I'm allowing to happen. Because it's like, I think the spectrum is so much larger that it swings really hard the other way. If I don't know somebody, it would be a lot, I think, easier for me to not feel as affected because I don't know that person. So I think in another episode we talk about, okay, if I saw something like the MAGA hat or the Tesla or whatever the thing is that might mean something to me, like maybe I'll make an assumption or a judgment. I hope not. I hope I can be more curious about that person. But that's not going to hit me as hard as like my own father saying something that is scary to me. And so it's easier for me to jump to defensiveness and try to prove my points instead of listening, asking a question, and trying to come to a place of where do we align and where do we both come from? Because I guarantee you there's things that are in alignment of whatever the fear in love is in the conversation.
Sure.
So it does become that much more difficult when it's somebody like my mom or my dad or sometimes you. And I think part of the growth with you and I is we both are working on this and we're both trying to be more aware, or as aware as we can be to the best of our abilities. And so I think we sometimes, not always, sometimes we can, I mean, we've said this multiple times that when we argue at a higher level of trying to get through it more effectively, more quickly. And I know I can't, I'm not trying to fall into victim. So the drama triangle, Carbon's drama triangle of being like, oh, well, my dad doesn't have the tools, so I can't practice the tools. That's definitely not what I'm trying to say in this moment. But I do think it does become easier with someone like yourself who also has the capability to use the tools.
Yeah, I hear that. And part of where as you were talking, part of where my brain went is, well, what did you want from the conversation with your dad?
That's a good question.
Right? Because it's like sometimes I want you to hear my point. I want to change your mind or is it like, I won't answer for you. I have an idea.
Yeah.
Or like what's the outcome? So part of discourse and part of what happens is we get hooked into the drama pieces of, well, I saw this thing and these facts, and then who the fuck knows where the facts are and what's real and what's not.
Right. And I think that was also really frustrating, and where I would definitely, I mean, I would jump right into it, and I'd get hooked into the drama immediately when it was, well, the facts are this is 1,000% true. And it drove me crazy because how the hell do you know that that's 1,000% true, or those are the facts, and what are your resources? Because if it's the news, that was for me hard to not get hooked into the drama.
Yeah, I think we've talked about, are we having a price conversation? Or are we having a value conversation?
Right.
Facts is the price. It's cheap, right?
Yeah.
I can spin numbers. Tell me whatever story I want. I can chop them up. I can spit them out and give them to you. However, backs the story that I have is numbers, right? There's a million ways to do it. I mean, just to go back to what I asked, like part of me was what I heard you say, and correct me if I'm wrong, is I just wanted my dad to hear how what he's saying would actually, if certain things happen, how it would impact me.
Yeah. I think that's certainly the case, right?
And then
because again, it goes back to my truth, my experience, right? The way that I grew up, even because he also white, male, tall, whatever, the labels that we all get put into, and how that has an effect on the way that we've been treated and grown up, and the experiences that we have or don't have, or where we live, what state we live in, and all those things, right? And that's not to say anything about like his truth and his experiences and the things that he's fearful of, right? That's a whole nother story that I don't even know. And so the things that he is bringing up in the conversation, he's equally as fearful of or whatever. And so that was just my challenge. The hardest part for me is I noticed it happening in real time.
It's a car crash.
I noticed it happening, and I didn't stop. I couldn't stop it. I just kept getting hooked.
That's so. I would say that's probably the exciting part, is to be able to, in the moment while it's happening, like, oh shit, here we go again.
Yeah. And
this isn't working. We're going in a direction, we're going down a path I don't want to go down.
Yeah.
I think that's part of, that's not step one, but being more conscious is,
yeah.
Can I just catch it? Can I just catch things happening while they're happening?
Yeah.
Cool. Welcome to that that level.
Right. There's levels. Well, okay, so that's a really, really good point. I've had a lot of time to speak with you in conversations and reach certain levels in conversations. My mom is another example of that too. And I have, over time, with understanding these tools, I've had more practice. She lives with us, so obviously I get to talk to her a lot more. And it's very seldom that I'm even having the conversation of politics in any way, shape, or form with my dad. When we're together, that's a very small part of even what's happening. Most of my dad and I is pretty even keel. Like, there's not really any discourse at all. So yeah. I've had the least amount of those conversations.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, to your point, hooray, I noticed it.
Yeah.
Like,
I would actually
progress.
Just, so being able to say I noticed it, reflecting on it, and just what was my role in it, how can I understand where someone's coming from better, whether it's your dad. I think that's all growth, and that's all learning, and that's all positive, right? And yeah, it wasn't, again, like, for anyone that wasn't there, it wasn't like this heated thing. It was just very much like a conversation about two people that have different priorities and different opinions based on different priorities, which is all politics is.
Right.
And to your point, we have a lot more similarities than we have differences. And how do we find help? I think so much of that discourse around those like topics like that is help me understand why this is the angle you're coming from. Give me some threads to pull on there. And I still might disagree, but if I understand the origin, if I understand the beginning or the root, I'm probably a little bit, it's going to be like, oh, fuck, yeah, that makes so much sense.
Right.
I still disagree. I still don't like it. But coming from where you're coming from, like, I can totally see that. Right. Yeah. But most of us never get there in those conversations. We stay up in the, I'm right, you're wrong.
Yeah. So, it's really hard to come to.
And to be, I don't know, honest, transparent, truthful. Like, I don't know what the word is. It's not, none of those. But just like, so watching the family dynamic of you, your dad, and your brother, there were multiple times where I was like, okay, it's kind of like jump rope. Like, how do I jump in?
When do I jump in?
Is there
the crisscross?
Right. So I was kind of watching it outside in and just going, like, oh, maybe, what if I said that? No, I don't want to say that. Right.
You were on another level of the awareness as an observer. And then, I mean, that's the thing, as I think that happens as an outsider to any other family dynamic or relationship dynamic or right. So it's the same thing when I get to see you and your family dynamics and what's happening, and
it's easier on the outside looking in.
Absolutely. It's the same thing as like,
it's safer. Yeah.
So, thanks for working through that conversation with me. I was thinking about it, and then I thought just the fact that my truth, my experience came up on this episode and we talked about it a little bit, I thought that would be a good example of that.
How cool for you to, in the moment, right?
Yeah.
Just be like, catch it. And it's like, oh, This isn't working.
And I remember there were a couple times where I caught it. I did think to myself, how can I come from a question? How can I be curious? And they were still a little too, the word that's coming to mind for me is sharp. And I don't know if that's
pointed,
the right word, but that's how I felt, is like, that was a little too sharp. Even though it's a question, it's definitely not going to land. And it didn't. I mean, it kind of did, but anyway, there was
this is the fun part of conscious communication. So do I make a statement? Do I ask it as a question? And then what's my body language? What's my tone? And if in a family intimate setting, it's a lot easier to get for the tone to kind of miss, or sarcasm to show up, or the snarky kind of thing to happen because you and me know each other, and I can be playful and have that show up with you and me because we spend so much time together. So it works until it doesn't. Yeah. And in family stuff, it's really easy to just kind of have it happen a lot, and intention impacts misses, and
down the rabbit hole we go.
This is why certain uncles aren't invited to Thanksgiving. Not specifically to my family or your family necessarily.
No, but this is why it's frustrating when we haven't gotten more people to experience conscious communication, because look at the learning that's happening in my family dynamic, the learning that has been happening, right? So this isn't just for business and closing deals, and it certainly will. And what would happen to my life if my relationships with the people closest to me became that much more effective and better, and we can communicate more? Like,
well, I mean, rather than the what if, is like you have expressed, because of the way I'm trying to talk to my mom differently. Yeah. I am closer with her.
Yes.
And we're bonding more. We're connecting better, and we're not getting into these little tiffs, little arguments. Yeah. It's not even a what if. It's like,
no, it's literally.
I'm like watching. I have, again, front row seat of you and your mom. There's been moments, obviously, and it's not a perfect thing, but the last couple months, as I've seen, you went to the baseball game together, and you're spending shopping and doing things that like would drive you crazy.
Yeah, right? I certainly, her and I,
we love you, Mama Conchis.
Oh my gosh, so much. And for everyone who is part of 6 Degrees and has met her, I mean, she's just instantly fall in love with her. She's the best. And we recently, her and I, we were actually having quite a bit of fun cleaning the apartment to get it ready for my dad and brother to come. And we were playing music, and she was having a couple beers. I might have been having some wine. And then we proceeded to stay up and way too late. I think we were up till 3 a.m. or something insane, because we were having such a great bonding experience and conversation. And this is part of what we talked about too. I started talking to her about conscious communication and how it's helped and how it's been great, because everything that you just said, our relationship's becoming so much deeper, and we're bonding, and it's easier for me to not get so defensive or whatever it was that was causing the tiff. And then it's like, okay,
it spirals and snowballs into this little thing.
And it's all understanding communication and how my communication can be more effective with the person that I'm talking to in this moment.
Yeah.
Mic drop.
Mic drop comedy.
Mic drop, shout out. So anyway, on the episode, you started talking about asking a specific question, and the way that I asked the question, and how someone might answer, what do you think versus what do you feel versus what was your experience, or what is your experience, I guess, if you're still in it, or if I'm still in it. Talk a little bit about that. What comes up for you with that learning for Moody?
Yeah, it was I don't know that it was taught. It was more, I think I caught it in passing, or him and I had a conversation around it. Mm-hmm. So we're talking about choosing to to state a question rather than a statement. And then actually there's, again, levels to framing a question, right? And what comes up, so the difference between what do you think, what do you feel, or what's your experience? And each of us have our own default. if I'm a thinker, if I'm in my head, if I ask you about something, you'll say, oh, I think it's this, or I feel like it's this. And we kind of naturally do it subconsciously.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm a thinker and I ask you how you feel, there's going to be a potential disconnect with the way that I'm actually processing that question.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really interesting because I'm very much a thinker,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when you ask me, Eric, how do you feel about this? It's like, I'm not as in tune and in touch. And so rather than, I kind of want to figure out, like, are you a thinker or are you a feeler? And so a way to do that is what's your experience of X, Y, and Z?
Yeah.
And then if I ask Christina, what's your experience of this room?
Like, oh, I feel really cozy in here.
Yeah.
Right.
So
maybe, or I think it's purple or loud or.
Well, so I guess how do we make this real? What's something I can ask you? How do you? What was it what we just talked about with your dad? Right. What was your overall experience of how that went?
Well, see, because okay.
Or are you thinking about?
Okay, before you asked me anything and you were saying you called yourself a thinker, I played this whole battle in my head of thinking about, am I a thinker or I'm a feeler? No, I'm a thinker. Oh, wait, no, I'm a feeler. Wait. And so I'm unsure.
I think part of this is it's not I'm one or the other, right? I think it's going to be more, I'm going to naturally think about certain things and I'm going to feel certain things. So even when I'm trying to make it real. So if I ask you, what's your experience of my driving?
I think it's terrifying.
Right. So I think it's terrifying. Is right. So the actual
Yeah.
response is I think, right?
Yeah.
Which
Well, yeah.
Versus I feel terrified every time we're behind the wheel, or like, right. So there's,
Yep.
again, not good or bad, not right or wrong, and I don't even know that we're doing this justice, right?
Well, I think we are. Part of the reason why I was battling, do I lean more one way or the other, is because, well, I'm the one editing this podcast and I say I think a lot. And it's one of the things that I've realized and I want to work on because I say it. And
that's interesting to me because I actually expected you or would have anticipated you to say I feel.
Well, so yeah, and that's why in my own mind, as you were talking, I was battling where do I land most often, because I have heard you talk about me being more in tune with my feelings.
Yeah. Well,
and coming from feelings more often.
I would say part of just with what you just said, in my own mind, I'm a thinker. It's like, of course you do. You're in your own mind.
Yeah.
If it was from your heart or your gut, I'm guessing it would probably. And again, so it's not, certain experiences are gonna actually prompt one or the other based on who I am, and it's not a good or bad thing. Mm-hmm. The reason to ask what was your experience and for you to say I think this, oh okay, now it's giving me clues that Christina's more of a thinker on this,
or at least on this subject,
on this topic,
in this environment.
And if I'm paying attention, if I ask you multiple versions of that question and I hear the I think, mm-hmm. or I feel, and it might vary. This is so subtle, but it's clues. It's clues to helping me understand you better, right? And to go back to the conversation with your dad, if I'm tracking, was he saying, well, I think this, and I think this, and I think this, versus I feel this, right? We're having, it goes back to the book Super Communicators, mm-hmm. right? Charles Duhigg is the author. But are we having an analytical conversation or are we having an emotional conversation? Mm-hmm. Because if you're having an analytical conversation and I'm having an emotional conversation, we're going to miss.
Yep.
Right? So I want to understand, again, the difference between what do you think or what do you feel about this thing versus the reason to ask what's your experience is because now I'm not putting it in a box.
Yeah.
I'm not putting it in a box. I'm actually going to get just the real answer.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a little bit of a clue around the type of conversation that we're having. Yeah.
And so relevant to the conversation with Maria. And so if I walked into a home and I'm trying to sell the home and I ask, what do you think? Yeah. What do you think?
What do you think? What do you think of the house?
And what I'm in that moment, I'm feeling something. There's maybe a feeling of, I'm not thinking about the house and the countertops and whatever I'm looking at. Maybe I'm feeling and I'm imagining my family here or whatever, right? And so she talks about it as in more of an intuition, which I do think, now I'm going to be thinking about it every time. A lot of what we can do in the subconscious is mirror people. And so if I maybe the first couple questions are amiss and they start talking about, the other person starts talking about the feelings and I start to mirror it because they're talking about feelings or vice versa. So what if the opportunity is to be aware and to intentionally ask the first question about experience and then listen, and then there you go. Now I'm using intuition, and I'm also taking it to that next level in the circle of, I'm not just being unconscious about it, I'm being conscious about it, and I'm actively trying to understand the other person.
Well, it's connecting, right?
It's
how do
connecting.
it's all of this goes back to, how do I connect with the person across from me, right? And from a sales standpoint, again, not manipulating, but how do I connect? Oh, this person, they feel a certain way. Okay, how do I connect with them? And let's focus on the feeling part. How do you want this room to feel? Again, there's a shadow side to this. There's a dark side. There's a gloomy cloud that can be raining if I use this in a very manipulative way. And for us is, how do we connect better? And yeah, what's your experience? You'll hear both of us, anyone listening, you'll hear us. That's a very common, I want to hear your experience. I'd love to hear your experience of today.
What's your experience of 6 degrees? What's your experience of our conversation?
Yeah. And there's probably other versions of that where that's my favorite, and that's specifically from Rudy.
Yeah.
The interesting part of just humans and communication is there's levels. There's levels to...
Oh, so many levels.
We're spending 10 minutes talking about think versus feel versus experience.
Right.
And those are drastically different in a conversation. Again, what's the dynamic with this person? How long have we known each other? How well are we already connected? What was the last interaction that we had with each other? Right. And I think, yeah, it's this fun, not right or wrong, not good or bad, just interesting. If I just started paying attention a little bit more, it's not something that's necessarily on my radar that I track regularly of, oh, this person, or you specifically, Christina, like, you're a thinker. I heard you say, I think. My brain doesn't do that right now. I hear it with I statements, right? That is definitely on my radar. Not so much with the think versus feel.
Yeah, so that's part of the learning and part of what I've mentioned multiple times coming out of a leadership lab is, this has been 4.5 years now of doing this work. And I feel like maybe I'm at like, I don't know how many, if we were to say levels 1 through 10, let's just to make it simple, I'm at like a 1. Right? And I've been doing this work, and there's so many aha moments, and there's certainly a level of awareness that I did not have 4 years ago. And I mean, any conversation that we have with Rudy, and it's like, okay, wow, shit, there's so much mastery that can continue to happen and continue to grow. And I watched back the tape of the leadership lab and the two of us talking, and even in that tape, I'm like, I'm struggling so hard to turn the question and ask the question in a certain way and whatever. And obviously that conversation is such a long way from
6 months ago, a year ago. Right?
Yeah, even a year ago. Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, the growth happens, and it happens if I want to work on it and want to be more invested in my awareness. So there's so many levels, and the levels don't stop. I mean, I said 1 through 10, but truthfully, it keeps going.
Yeah, there's no finish.
So
that's the fun part.
Super fun. So what was your experience of this deep dive?
I would love for anyone that got this far, to throw it in the comments. of what'd you feel? What'd you think? What was your experience?
There you go. Look at you engaging the audience. Put her there, bub.
Put her there, bub.
We're going to keep doing it.